Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy. I'm going to be your host today. This is my first podcast on this channel, which I wish to discuss blockchain technology, preferably Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, but it is my cryptocurrency of choice. I got involved in Bitcoin a few years back. Traditionally, I've been a precious metals investor. I've been investing in precious metals since the late 1990s, back when it was for $5 Canadian. Since then, it's been quite a ride. I believe the price of silver now is roughly, to purchase it, Canadian Maple Leaf is about $27 Canadian. So you can see substantial gains over that time. And right now, as Greg Mandarino and several others have stated online, it's probably one of the most undervalued assets in the world right now. I'm not selling any silver at the moment. I'm not buying any silver. I'm focusing mostly on cryptocurrency now. My position's set with regards to precious metals. Hopefully the run-up will be higher, but I thought I would start this channel just because there seems to be a lot of FUD. I've been trying to educate people, whether they're my friends, co-workers, family, about Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and it just seems to go over their head. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start a channel, record my thoughts, and see what people think. So I want to get on to a podcast that was done by Schiff a couple of days ago, and he has an interesting viewpoint on cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in general. So I just want to kind of analyze a little bit and give you my take on it. And just to say, I have the utmost respect for Schiff. He was pretty accurate in calling the 2008 housing bubble, 2007, 2008 housing crisis. I'm bullish on precious metals, gold and silver, preferably silver. But I'm surprised he still doesn't get the concept of cryptocurrencies. And so I'm also going to play a little video clip too of G. Edward Griffin talking about his take on cryptocurrencies, and I'll let you guys decide what you think. There's a recent hack yesterday with this ransomware. Tools devised by the NSA have been leaked out. I'm sure you're all aware, and has caused havoc. And as soon as it happened, I'm like, dang it. They're going to blame this on Bitcoin. If it's ransomware, they're going to want payment in cryptocurrency. And I'll give my takes and comments to it once we get to that point. So let's get started. So here's the video clip from Schiff. It starts at about 12:49, I believe. So I'm going to post these in the description below. But right now, I just want to play this, and I'll pause briefly and give my take on what he's saying.
People are going to come back into the market and start buying more gold. But this is just something that I have been observing. Now, of course, one asset, and of course this is where I'm going to start to generate a lot of thumbs down on this video, is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the one asset that has just continued to rise, at least, if people want to look at it as a monetary hedge, right? Bitcoin, as I talk, is, trading between $1,700 and $1,800 per Bitcoin. Right now, as I happen to be recording it, it's $1,765, and this is near an all-time record high. In fact, remember when I was talking about it not too long ago, when it first got above the price of gold, it got a lot of hype in the media, and then it kind of pulled back a little bit. Well, look at it now. I mean, gold is $1,220 and Bitcoin is $1,765. I mean, now Bitcoin is miles ahead of the price of gold. But of course, the price of gold is irrelevant to a price of a Bitcoin because.
Okay, I just want to pause there briefly. The Bitcoin price is irrelevant. I'm sorry, Mr. Schiff, but you don't seem to understand the concept of a cryptocurrency. We don't know exactly how much gold is in the world. There's been different projections on what the estimated amount is. And gold is continually being mined every day. Every single day, gold is being mined. They can estimate all they want. Geologists can conduct surveys and analysis and to determine how much they estimate might be left in the Earth's crust, blah, blah, blah. But we know the end result for Bitcoin, which is 21 million Bitcoins. That is why it's increasing in value, and it will probably continue to increase in value rapidly.
You're comparing apples and oranges. It made good, I guess, talking points in the media to point this out, but it really was an irrelevant statistic. But obviously, what is relevant is the total market cap of all the Bitcoins out there, which is now almost $29 billion, closing in on $30 billion. Now, I know a lot of people who like to thumbs down my videos want to say, aha, you see, Peter Schiff, we told you, look, Bitcoin is going up, right? You said don't buy it. You said it's a bubble. And look, it's 1760, right? Last time you were talking about not buying it, it was, 1200, wherever it was. And you know what? Just because a bubble gets bigger doesn't mean it's not a bubble. So, and I've always said, I don't know how high Bitcoin is going to go. It could go to 17,000 for all I know. I've said that before. I have no idea how high it's going to go before it collapses.
Okay, before it collapses. So again, it could collapse, but the price of gold has collapsed from its all-time high of 1900 back a few years ago. I forget the actual year. Was it 2011? I forget. 2012. But again, he's been wrong several times, and you have to understand his position on why he is so adamant on gold and silver. Now, the video, before I continue to play it, you have to understand, again, I admire Peter Schiff 100%, but on this particular issue, it's a very moot point. For the simple fact that, again, there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoins ever created. Gold can be manipulated through the futures market with paper contracts. Right now, there is no Bitcoin ETF, so it's not so easy to slam the price of Bitcoin down. It is truly operating in a free market system, unlike precious metals or other commodities that are regulated through different exchanges, whether it's the COMEX, the LBMA in England. This is why true market... Now, I will agree with him on this. Gold and silver probably should be much higher. But with the manipulation that goes on in the paper markets, this is why Bitcoin is doing so well, and it will continue to rise. There's no way it's going to collapse anytime soon. Could it? Sure it could. People are going to say the government's going to come out and do this and that. They might try, and I'm going to try to touch upon that later as we discuss this.
But it's going to collapse, and maybe it's going to go to zero. Now, can it go to 10,000 or 20,000 or even 100,000 before it goes to zero? I suppose. I mean, anything is possible. I mean, because $1,700 for a Bitcoin makes no sense. And it does, so if it can be 1,700, it can be 17,000. What difference does it make? There is no logic to the price. This is just a mania. I mean, what were tulips worth when they were trading tulip bulbs in Holland? It didn't matter. They went through the roof until they came crashing down. Now, did people make money trading tulip bulbs in Holland? Yeah, they did. But a lot more people lost a lot of money. Same thing's going to happen with Bitcoin. Yeah.
Same thing's going to happen with Bitcoin. I guess it could happen, Mr. Schiff, but unfortunately, Bitcoin is completely different than tulips, okay? We're all aware of probably one of the first bubbles ever recorded, the tulip mania in Holland, but Bitcoin is programmable money. It is programmable money that can't be controlled by a government, by any single point of central bank. There is no company that you can attack. It is completely decentralized, and we know the fixed supply. Now, with tulips, I don't know exactly the whole history of the tulip mania, but you could just go plant more tulips. Quote me if I'm wrong, but a bunch of people, I'm sure, would have led to this mania of tulips. People started growing tulips all over the place. If it's tulip mania, and people are like, oh, I'm a farmer, there's land, I'll plant some bulbs, and boom, boom, boom. I don't think the tulip mania happened within a 6-month stretch, and eventually you'd have an oversupply of tulips, and he's ready to collapse. But the difference is, Peter, you just can't grow Bitcoin. Currently, the way the algorithm's designed is that it is not possible. It's math, and I'm sorry, I trust mathematics and science over your philosophy of comparing Bitcoin to tulips. This is completely absurd.
Yes, some people are going to make money. Some people have made money, and some people will make money. But a lot of people are going to lose money. It reminds me of the Clint Eastwood movie. Do you if you're lucky, right? Well, do you, punk? I mean, if you feel lucky, you can buy yourself some Bitcoins, and maybe you'll get out before the music stops. I don't know. I just don't like to encourage people to participate in a bubble just based on the fact that they may be able to get out before the bubble pops. But hey, if you're a gambler and you want to try to judge the risk reward, especially if you take profits on the way up, I mean, the best way to trade Bitcoin is to trade it. And, yes, obviously, if you just bought and never sold, yes, you have greater profits than people who bought some a while ago and then took money off the table. But the concept of taking money off the table means eventually if you take enough money off the table, you don't have any money on the table. It's all the house's money. And once you're playing with the house's money, well, then you can gamble. Because then if you lose the house's money, it's no big deal. So if you're going to get into Bitcoin and you're going to buy it, which I'm not encouraging you to do, but if you're going to buy it and it goes up, you got to sell.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, completely ignore everything he just said. If you're going to buy it, you got to sell it and trade it. For me, if you're an awesome trader, whether you're trading Bitcoin or some of the altcoins out there, I'm holding Bitcoin for the long term. If I need to sell some here and there, then maybe I will. But I'm riding this thing till the wheels fall off of it for several reasons. One, where are you going to put your money? In the bank that's giving you no interest? Two, I'm a Canadian, so in Canada they actually passed the law, I think it was called Economic Tax Plan of 2013 under the Harper government here in Canada. Maybe I'll do another video on that, where they actually create a law that they can come in and take your accounts, your pension funds, your RSPs, to prevent systemic collapse of the banking system. So why would you want to hold on to cash or assets in the bank? He wants you to buy gold, which is great. There's only one problem. Your neighbor's not going to accept gold. He's not going to accept silver. So when push comes to shove, and you need to sell these assets, it's going to be difficult. Because how are you going to get your money out to get the fiat, to pay your bills, to pay your taxes, to pay all these things? Cryptocurrencies is fantastic. How could I say this? Not that I believe that it's a preservation of wealth compared to precious metals, but it's far superior. If you're going to get into Bitcoin, I'm not giving financial advice, but if you do, hold as much of it as you can in either a hardware wallet. I prefer paper wallets. Get this stuff, hoard it. If you're really good at trading, you want to take that risk, go ahead. But completely ignore what he just said, to buy it, to trade it, to sell it. I think that's crazy.
You sell it all? You don't have to sell it all, just sell some. And you got to keep lightening up so that eventually you get your money off the table. Then, all right, you want to take a free ride and see what happens with a profit? Okay, you can see what happens. But the risk that you take is that you buy now and it just goes straight down, right? This may be the top, right? Now, it's probably not, right? Because the bubble's probably going to get bigger. I mean, how many times did it look like the NASDAQ bubble, the tech bubble, was at its peak in 1999, 2000? It looked like it many times before it finally happened, right? So you never know. You can never tell the difference, know when a bubble is at its peak. But I think I do know a bubble when I see one.
Yeah, he knows a bubble when he sees one. But I would love to bet Peter Schiff, and I'll tell him right now, Bitcoin is not in a bubble. Will we see some pullbacks? Absolutely. As with regards to some of the alt currencies, such as maybe Dash, Ethereum, Stellar, Ripple, all these other things, I'm not necessarily a Bitcoin maximalist. I do see their potential in some of these alt currencies, but a lot of them I think will fail. If you can trade them successfully, power to you. Go ahead. I'm not trading them. I'm buying Bitcoin, preferably. I don't mind some Ethereum, but I think there might be some legal issues with Ethereum. Tone Vase has got an awesome video on one of his crypto scam podcasts talking about Ethereum and how that money was raised to start that project. Again, I'm not bashing Ethereum. I'm just saying because they're selling securities, yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. Bitcoin is decentralized. There is no central authority. To me, that is like digital gold. I'm not going to dump all my assets into that digital currency, but I want to preserve wealth. Again, where am I going to put my money? Trust the stock market? It seems rigged. Flash Boys, I think there was a book written, talks about how the stock market, with high frequency trading, it seems rigged. I don't even want to be in the stock market. There might be some guys out here that trade options. If you're good at that stuff, you go ahead. But I'm just a working guy, want to save my cash, and right now, That's the best to go. So I'm going to fast forward here to, this is another video by G. Edward Griffin that World Alternative Media posted just yesterday, I believe it was, and it's great. Now, if you don't know who G. Edward Griffin is, I highly recommend you read his book or buy his book or find somebody that has it. I learned about the financial system back in the mid to late 1990s when I read this book, and I must admit at the time I thought, well, this is pretty wild, but you know, it might be just a conspiracy theory. Well, after the dot-com crash and then the 2008 housing crisis in the U.S. to see the systemic risk that happened through the banks throughout the world, then it's obvious. They're just printing money. This stuff is just garbage. Cash is just trash. I don't know how long it's going to last. I'm not predicting that. But you want to preserve your wealth and your savings. And again, where do you put your money? If you're just an average Joe, where do you put your money? You can buy precious metals, which is, again, is great. Do you want to put your money in the bank? Do you want to invest in the stock market? Do you want to invest in something that no central authority can control? No government can control it? It's a protocol, it's programmable, and you know the fixed supply of 21 million, and it's based on math. It's based on math and science. There's different rebuttals. Oh, if the internet goes down. If the internet goes down, the least I'm going to worry about anyway is Bitcoin, because your supply chains break down. We live in a digital cashless society anyway. Everything's all debit. I don't know almost anyone that keeps more than maybe a couple $100s of cash at home, if that. Most of the time, even for the last several years, I'm lucky to have maybe $100 in my wallet. But we live in a cashless society now anyway. Bitcoin is an alternative to fight back against this system. And before I get off topic, G. Edward Griffin wrote the book called The Creature from Jekyll Island that exposed this monstrosity of central banking and how it became into being, the power brokers that instituted it, contrived it, and it's the most dangerous system. This is one of the systems that probably causes the most harm in this world, is central banks. And hey, this guy basically cracked the door to shed a light on this scam of the international money cartel. And let's see what Mr. Griffin has to say about cryptocurrencies.
Over there, Darren. Am I coming up to the podium?
Well, Mr. Griffin, nice to talk to you. My question is, what are your thoughts on digital currency and how that's being introduced into the world and as a way to maybe decentralize the monetary system? And how do you view the government intervening in that? Or like, what are your thoughts on that whole process? What is happening currently?
Yeah, that's a very important one. I think we're going to have somebody at the Red Pill talking on that, by the way. But I'm not an expert on it, but I've tried to read everything that comes across my desk. And here's my take on it right now. First of all, I like the digital cryptocurrencies a lot because they focus on this thing called inflation. One of the reasons they like digital currencies, especially things like Bitcoin, where the algorithm is such that there's only so many that can be created, is because that means that the money supply is limited, which means that you just can't create it and keep creating it and devaluing its purchasing power because you're flooding the world with it. So what's one of the talking points for things like Bitcoin. And that helps people focus on one of the major weaknesses of the present fiat system, is that all fiat monies are losing value. It's just a question of time till they go from something to nothing. So I like it for that reason. And there's, of course, another issue of privacy involved there. The chain block technology is such that it's, I guess, almost impossible to identify the individuals making the transactions. Now, I think that's very valuable, not because I am a drug dealer or because I have something to hide. It's because I like my privacy. I don't want everybody knowing what I'm doing and how much money I might have or who I'm giving it to or anything like that. It's nobody's business but mine. So I think the idea of privacy is very, very important. Everybody that's interested in this topic has pretty much read about the issues I just mentioned. So it's all plus on that side of it. But there is one weakness I think I should mention, and that is that if you look at the list of things or qualities that make money ideal, their fungibility, they don't perish, and so forth, all the things that gold and silver have, there's one of those qualities is that they have intrinsic value. So that even if nobody wants your money, to use it as a medium of exchange, they still would want it because it has value in itself.
And that's why I take a different stance. I'm not all in on Bitcoin. I'm not all in on precious metals. I'm definitely not all in on cash. Again, I'm not giving financial advice. Do your own research. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend reading it. It's over 20 years old and it is fantastic. My hats off to G. Edward Griffin. He was probably one of the pioneers in shedding light on this cabal that currently runs our financial system. And he talks about drug dealing and everything else. I want to get to this article. I don't want to waste too much of your time. And again, I apologize. This is my first podcast. You may not find this interesting. If you are interested, like it, subscribe. I plan to do a lot more because this is an important issue. We can, for the first time in human history, we have a chance to actually use a currency and a form of money that we can't be held hostage to. This is what money is supposed to be. And especially in the digital age, being able to walk across the border, transfer wealth without all the restrictions. If you fly internationally, I'm sure you're aware of all the restrictions. If you're an American, you can't fly with more than $10,000 US. I was recently in South America and I had some cash in US currency. Canadian law states that I can't fly internationally with more than 10,000 Canadian dollars or equivalent in foreign currency. So if you're a Canadian and you want to fly somewhere and perhaps open up a bank account offshore, just be careful, because make sure you do conversion rates correctly. Because if you have, say, $9,000 US and you're leaving Canada and you're going to fly somewhere and you think, oh, everything's all great, or you're coming to Canada with 9,000 US, be careful, because under Canadian law, you can't fly internationally. They can seize it. You got to go through all the paperwork. You're supposed to declare it. You don't want these people to know. Why would they put all these controls? Well, we want to control drug dealers and money laundering. But if you read that book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, you'll understand it has a lot more to do with than just that. So I want to get to this article. This is from The Sun. I'm sure you're aware, the ransomware, the hack attack that was done by the NSA tools, by the way. Whether or not this is an actual attack or a false flag, I'm not too sure, but it's quite interesting. As soon as I heard about it yesterday, I was like, oh no, here we go. And I could almost watch it, pull up my phone, and I would watch the Bitcoin price continuing to drop. And I was like, oh, what do you want to bet? The ransomware is demanding Bitcoin. And sure enough. So I'm just going to get to this article and I'm going to close this video. Geeks Gold. What is Bitcoin? What is its value and price? And how much are the NHS cyber attack ransomware hackers demanding? And I've highlighted this here. Governments are increasingly concerned about taxation and their lack of control over the currency. So I'm not going to read the whole article, but I just want to touch upon it a little bit. It talks about when Bitcoin was created, what its current value is, how it's higher than gold, and it'll probably go much higher, much higher. I'm not saying there's going to be any pullbacks, but again, I love the volatility. The volatility that I'm seeing, this is like any pre-IPO. This is just fantastic. The longer it stays volatile, the more excited I am about Bitcoin, because that means it hasn't reached its S-curve yet, and that might be another video I talk about. What is Bitcoin, when it was invented. Again, I'm not going to read this entire article. I got to cut this video short. Where can you buy Bitcoin, etc. But you get down to the end. Is Bitcoin the future of online trading? No one knows what will become of Bitcoin, and it is mostly unregulated. But that could change as governments are concerned about taxation and their lack of control over it. So its USP, the anonymity, could eventually be its downfall. While it keeps Bitcoin's transactions private, it also lets them buy or sell anything without easily tracing it back to them. And I highlighted this in red because this is key. This makes you really have to wonder. And you understand that your government's not there to protect you. They're there to tax you and steal from you every single minute of every day if they could get away with it. That's why it has become the currency of choice for people online buying drugs or other illicit activities. And not many governments will put up with that for long. So, thank you for joining me. Like and subscribe. I do plan to do more videos. I apologize. I'm not the greatest YouTube podcaster. I do plan to post these on YouTube and VidMe and Steam it as well. So, thanks for joining me. Do some homework, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.